Tariff turmoil. A roller coaster ride. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the trade war just took another wild turn. President Trump, never one to shy away from a high-stakes gamble, has thrown us all for a loop with his latest tariff tactics. One minute, he's slapping tariffs on everyone and everything. The next, he's offering a temporary reprieve. It's enough to give even the savviest economist whiplash. But amidst all the chaos and confusion, one thing is clear. Trump's trade war is far from over. In fact, it seems like things are just heating up. So buckle up, Buttercup, because this roller coaster ride is far from over. 90 days of relief, or is it? In a move that surprised absolutely no one, President Trump announced a 90-day pause on those hefty tariffs he'd imposed on goods from over 50 countries. This decision comes after months of intense negotiations and mounting pressure from both domestic and international stakeholders. The tariffs, which had been a significant point of contention, were initially put in place to protect American industries, but had the unintended consequence of driving up prices for consumers and straining relationships with key trading partners. Trump announced a 90-day pause on those hefty tariffs he'd imposed on goods from over 50 countries. This temporary suspension is seen as a strategic move to ease tensions and provide some economic relief, especially for businesses that rely heavily on imported goods. The announcement was met with mixed reactions, with some praising the decision as a necessary step towards economic stability, while others remain skeptical about its long-term impact. That's right, folks, you can breathe a sigh of relief, for now at least, knowing that your favorite imported cheeses, wines, and whatever else tickles your fancy won't be hit with those wallet-draining price hikes. For many, this means a temporary return to normalcy, where enjoying a fine French wine or a delectable Italian cheese doesn't come with a hefty price tag. Grocery stores and specialty shops are already seeing an uptick in sales as consumers rush to take advantage of the lower prices. But wait, there's a catch. There's always a catch, isn't there? While the tariff pause is a welcome relief, it's important to read the fine print. The 90-day suspension is just that, a suspension. There's no guarantee that the tariffs won't be reinstated once the period is over. Businesses and consumers alike are urged to remain cautious and not become overly reliant on this temporary measure. This tariff timeout doesn't apply to everyone. Several countries are excluded from this temporary relief, and the criteria for inclusion remain somewhat opaque. This selective approach has raised questions about the fairness and effectiveness of the policy. Critics argue that it creates an uneven playing field and could potentially lead to further economic disparities. Oh no, China, our favorite economic frenemy, is being left out in the cold. The ongoing trade tensions between the US and China show no signs of abating. Despite the temporary relief for other countries, the tariffs on Chinese goods remain firmly in place. This exclusion underscores the complex and often contentious nature of US-China relations. So, while the rest of the world gets a temporary reprieve, the trade war with China is about to get a whole lot hotter. Analysts predict that this could lead to further economic instability and market volatility. Businesses that rely on Chinese imports are bracing for impact, and consumers may still feel the pinch in their wallets. The next 90 days will be crucial in determining the future of international trade relations and economic policies. China feels the heat, 125% tariffs. The trade war between the United States and China has reached a boiling point, and the latest move by the Trump administration is sure to escalate tensions even further. Trump didn't just single out China for exclusion from the tariff pause, he made a bold and controversial decision to impose a staggering 125% tariff on Chinese goods. This move is seen as a direct challenge to China's economic dominance, and a clear message that the US is not backing down. He decided to give them a little something extra to think about. By targeting a wide range of products from electronics to everyday household items, Trump is aiming to hit China where it hurts the most, its export-driven economy. How about a 125% tariff on Chinese goods? This unprecedented move has sent shockwaves through the global markets, with analysts predicting a significant impact on international trade. That's right, folks, those iPhones, laptops, and everything else you love that happens to be made in China just got a whole lot more expensive. Consumers in the US are likely to feel the pinch as prices for these popular products soar, leading to potential changes in buying habits and increased demand for alternatives. Now, we all know Trump loves a good deal, but this seems a bit extreme even for him. His administration argues that the tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair competition, but critics warn that the move could backfire, leading to higher costs for businesses and consumers alike. It's like he's trying to win a staring contest with a brick wall. The Chinese government has vowed to retaliate, and the prospect of a full-blown trade war looms large. Both sides are digging in their heels, and the stakes couldn't be higher. One thing's for sure, this latest move is going to have serious consequences for both countries. Economists are already predicting a slowdown in global growth, with potential ripple effects across various sectors, from technology to agriculture, and the global economy as a whole. As the world watches closely, the outcome of this high-stakes game of economic brinkmanship remains uncertain. Will cooler heads prevail, or are we headed for a prolonged period of economic turbulence? Only time will tell. Section 4, Market Mania Stocks Soar on Pause News. The financial world was set ablaze today with the news that sent stocks soaring to new heights. Investors and traders alike were caught in a whirlwind of excitement as the markets reacted to the latest developments. You know what they say? Good news for the stock market is bad news for the rest of us. While Wall Street celebrates, Main Street often feels the pinch. The disparity between the booming stock market and the everyday struggles of ordinary people has never been more apparent. Okay, maybe no one actually says that, but it seems to be the case more often than not. The stock market's gains don't always translate to economic relief for the average person. It's a complex relationship that leaves many scratching their heads. Case in point, the stock market's ecstatic response to Trump's tariff pause. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all shot up like rockets, posting their biggest gains in years. This surge was fueled by optimism that the trade tensions might be easing. Investors, it seems, were thrilled with the news, interpreting it as a sign that the trade war might finally be winding down. The markets responded with a fervor that hasn't been seen in quite some time, reflecting the high stakes and high hopes of the financial community. Investors, it seems, were thrilled with the news, interpreting it as a sign that the trade war might finally be winding down. The optimism was palpable, with many seeing this as a turning point that could lead to more stable economic conditions. Of course, this exuberance might be a tad premature, considering the whole China still has to pay 125% tariffs thing. The complexities of international trade and tariffs are far from resolved, and the road ahead remains uncertain. But hey, let's not harsh their mellow, right? For now, the markets are riding high on a wave of optimism, and investors are enjoying the ride. Whether this will lead to long-term stability or just a temporary boost remains to be seen. One thing is for sure, though, the financial world is never short on drama and excitement. Section 5. Retaliation and Responses. The Trade War Escalates. Predictably, China isn't taking this lying down. They've already slapped retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, and they're not afraid to escalate things further if they have to. It's a classic case of economic mutually assured destruction, and frankly, it's terrifying. And it's not just China that's pushing back. The EU, initially planning a 25% tariff on U.S. imports, scaled back to a 10% tariff after Trump's pause announcement. It seems everyone's trying to play tariff poker, and the stakes are getting higher by the minute. The big question is, who's going to blink first? Because at this rate, we're all going to lose. Section 6, Trump's Tariff Tango Rationale and Reactions. So, what's the method behind Trump's tariff madness? According to the man himself, the pause is meant to address the concerns of those who are yippy and afraid of the escalating trade tensions. Yes, you read that right. Yippy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent offered a slightly more coherent explanation, blaming China for escalating the trade war, and claiming that the U.S. was simply overwhelmed by countries begging for trade deals. Right, because everyone knows the best way to get a good deal is to threaten your negotiating partners with financial ruin. It's enough to make you wonder if anyone in the administration actually understands how international trade works. Section 7. Political punch-up, GOP applauds, critics cry foul. As with everything Trump does, his tariff tactics have sparked a firestorm of controversy. GOP lawmakers predictably fell over themselves praising the pause, with Senator Rand Paul calling it a victory for American consumers, and Senator Chuck Grassley lauding its predictability and credibility. Meanwhile, critics were quick to point out the absurdity of celebrating a temporary pause in a self-inflicted trade war. Senator Tammy Baldwin, while acknowledging China's unfair trade practices, criticized Trump's approach, calling it reckless and counterproductive. It's a familiar partisan divide, with each side digging in their heels and refusing to give an inch. And as usual, it's the American people who are caught in the crossfire.